Hello, I'm Sarah Grady Ackerman. There's no better story for Florida children than one about a heroic Native American. The 2010 Florida Book Awards gold medalist in children's literature is Godown Annino, and she's here with us to talk about her book, She Sang Promise, the story of Betty Mae Jumper, Seminole tribal leader. And thank you so much, Jan, for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me in, Sarah, and I thank your watchers for being interested in the Florida Book Award program. I hope some of them who are young people will grow up to be winners of the awards someday.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is one to look out for, because this is an amazing book for young children. Tell us what this award, the gold medal, means for you, Jan.
Well, I think that the most important thing that I'm feeling so excited about is that it means that someone who is famous in Florida history but who is not as well known as she should be is going to connect with a lot of students across the state.
And what is so neat about this little background to this book is that this really has been many years in the making. The seed was planted for this book way back in 1967.
This is true. This is the year that Betty Mae Tiger Jumper was elected a chair of the tribe, the Seminole tribe of Florida, and she was the first woman elected. The reason I go back to that was I was in school in Sarasota in middle school, and my mother saw the story in the newspaper announcing this achievement, and she clipped it and she read it and she told me it was really important and to remember it.
And years later you actually ended up meeting her.
Yes, and I think I forgot about it, honestly, but when I was a reporter and working at an American Indian Festival covering it for the newspaper, there was a table with gorgeous Seminole patchwork clothing and beadwork and other art pieces for sale, but what also attracted my attention was a stack of newspapers. I picked one up and I began reading. I was amazed. I didn't know the Seminole tribe of Florida had a newspaper, and it was so fascinating to me. After a while, this voice came from the end of the table, "You can have it, it's free." And I looked over, walked over, and there was a woman sitting on a low folding chair, and I immediately, my neurons started kicking in. I recognized her from that newspaper article of 1967. It was Betty Mae Jumper, and so we began speaking that day.
Wow, and here you are now, winning a gold medal for a book about her life. What prompted you to want to write a book specifically for children?
Well, a couple things. First of all, I went through our educational system in Florida, and I'm a very proud graduate of a middle school, a high school, and a university in our state. I did not get a lot about individual members of tribes, and I remembered that because my family always had an interest in history, but especially American Indian history. Then fast forward, I'm not anymore in a newspaper career, and my husband and I are living over in Volusia County, and I decide to write ecotourism guides, and I spend a bit of time visiting various Seminole sites to include in that book. And I begin thinking, you know, we now have a family, our daughter was little, she's going to come up and come through school, and I wonder what kinds of information is out there about people such as Betty Mae Tiger Jumper. And there wasn't anything.
And so you decided to write this book, and in a way planting a seed just like one was planted with you when you were young.
Oh, that's well said, yes. Yeah. And she deserves to be on everyone's radar because her amazing story begins in her birth. She had a very controversial background, being the daughter of a woman who was in the Seminole tribe, but her father was not of the tribe, and so that was looked at askance. And then furthermore, she wanted to have a formal education. She really wanted to learn to read, and so she went away from the tribe against the advice of her grandmother, who wanted her to remain very traditional and at the cook fire. And she loved the Seminoles, and I think she's a great example for children about how to follow the passion that is in your heart and yet honor your family traditions. She returned to her family and returned to her people, and because when she was away she trained in nursing, she was able to help them in the 40s and 50s and when she became active in creating the government and then the chair, she was even more able to help them.
Such an incredible life. I understand why you would want to write about her. And I understand that Betty Mae Jumper passed away just this past January. How much more does this award mean to you, the gold medal?
Well, I think it resonates because her family helped with the book in that they looked at it and made sure that our cultural contexts were correct. And the fact that she is now gone, that window of opportunity is past. So we just sort of made it.
Awesome. Well, She Sang Promise, the story of Betty Mae Jumper, Seminole tribal leader. Thank you so much, Jan, for spending some time with us.
Oh,
and again,
it's a
congratulations.
pleasure. And I have to thank the Florida Book Award program, and I do again hope that young readers watching will think about a book that someday they'll write that might give them this sort of spotlight.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Production of this program is made possible in part by a grant from the Florida Humanities Council. Additional support comes from the Florida State University Libraries.